For class number 2, our plan is to create a resume. So the easiest way to do this is to go into Microsoft Word. It will open a new blank document, and when you hit File, you can hit one step down. It says New from Template. Within your templates, there is a resume choice right up here. And this gives you several different options for types of resumes. If you click on it, it will show you each of those options. You are welcome to try all different types, and on my version of Word, it gives me 3 types. The first is blocks, and they're referring to this little section here that has blocks. A corner has your initials in the corner. Grayscale includes kind of the scale along the left-hand side. This one again is initials, very bold, kind of artistic. And then a simple resume, which would be my choice for you to begin with. And then we can always change the template. The Vita is for someone who is working in higher education, usually within a college. So that wouldn't usually pertain to most of us. So I'm going back to the simple resume and I'm going to click on it. It then gives me this sample. And basically what you will want to do is click on each section and begin filling it out with your own information. So for me, I would fill in Krista E. DiGregorio. And for some reason, it didn't just get rid of that, so I'm going to delete it. I would then fill in my address, city, state, zip code, and then my cell phone number. Most likely you wouldn't have a fax, and then an email. For your email, it's very important that you use an appropriate email address, something that you check regularly, perhaps something that comes to your phone, which would be ideal so that you're constantly receiving those messages from potential employers. If you have an email address that you might consider inappropriate, it might be something that's silly and that's fine, but an employer wouldn't take seriously, then we should create a new email for you specifically to use for job searching. And we do this all the time. If that's what you need to do, you can either, if you know how to do it, go to Gmail and create something that's has something probably to do with your name so it's easy to remember, and you can then make that email forward to whatever email you check regularly. If you have trouble doing this, please contact me and I can help you to create that email and to have it have the forwarding feature. So that's what we would put within the header. Now, next is your objective. Our objective is the potential job we're looking for. So I can give you different samples of objectives. Usually for most of us, it's an entry-level position working in a particular job category. So an example for my objective could be, I just highlighted and deleted the previous filler that they had. My objective could be to attain an entry level position in the career counseling field. You might want to add more to that. I think keeping it brief is a good idea. If you have an entry-level job and you're trying to take that next step, you might want to say something about that and include something about attaining the next level within your particular field. Next, you go to experience, and you would put who your employer is. So for me, it's Lesley University Threshold Program. I would put the dates that I have worked here, 8/1/12 through present. And then you start to, and then actually what I would want to do is to add my title. So I'm the employment coordinator. If you've had several titles within a particular employer, you could list them and then list the different things that you did within that role, and then beneath that list, you would then below that put your next title. So I'm just putting that back in. Okay, so I know I just changed the bullet, but within employment coordinator, I would then list what I do. And usually 3 to 4 things are enough to describe it. Sometimes you're just going to have 1 or 2 things listed as to what you do each day. And then you would then put where you worked previously, and you list from the top down your most recent job to your oldest job. And you don't need to include everything necessarily. If you have a pretty long list, you might just want to include your most recent positions. Next, you would go to education. So you would list for you, potentially, your most recent would be Lesley University, again, Threshold Program. And then over here, you would insert the dates that you attended, and then a description of potentially that I would say that you received a 2-year certificate in, you're going to put either business or early childhood. And then if you've received any other education, including high school, you could list that below. For skills, this is something we can work with. If you have particular skills that you want to highlight, I would include that. If you have licenses, like an EEC certificate or CPR training, those types of things, you could include those. This is a good way to highlight the things you're capable of doing, whether or not you have a ton of experience in the work world. So it can fill up your resume a little bit more if this experience section is a little short. I also forgot to mention that under experience, you can also list your internships. If you want to separate paid experience from internship experience or unpaid experience, you're welcome to do that. You do not have to. That's something that would come up on the interview or in the application at some point. So what I'd like everyone to do is to fill this out as completely as they possibly can. If you don't have dates, you're going to need to find them, either by talking to family or calling previous employers or going through any type of documents you might have, or finding an old resume and pulling it off of that resume. So all of those things are very important that you have all of those dates. So I would like you to try to get this as finished as possible and then save it. So you'll save it as, I would put your last name, so DiGregorio, resume, and then perhaps the date. So I put 7/15, and you can save it to your documents and save. Okay?